Uh-oh. No sound on either one. That is a bad start. Very bad. There we go. Who am I speaking with?
Got me?
Yeah, is this Eddie?
This is Fingers.
Hey, Eddie, what is going on? You're on the Stoner Jesus Show live.
Hey, man, what's going on?
I'm doing good. Having technical issues. I think Bob is trying to call in as well, but I don't know if that's going to work. Let me see if
I just got off the phone with him. He's trying to call in, too. So if you can get him on, great.
It says call on hold. I'm supposed to be able to take multiple callers here. I hate Skype. I really do. Regular listeners of the show know that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get Bob on. That is a shame.
If you can, no problem, man. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
If not, he's always free to call in as well. Anytime.
Well, fuck him.
We can go on without him. Well, we just plot ahead. Well, anyway, thanks for calling in, Eddie.
What's going on, man?
I was just telling my fans and listeners that nothing had more of an influence on this show, and which is something, of course, to be proud of, than the old Dawn Patrol in Cincinnati. A lot of people don't know.
No, I just heard Bob and I were talking. We were both listening, and I heard you say that, man. It was pretty kind of you to say that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
We had a really good time. We had a great run. I mean, hell, as you said, I did that show for over 20 years and just had a blast doing it. But that was back in the day when you could actually do a radio show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the thing that, especially terrestrial radio, as they call it, has gotten so different. And you guys, that's one of the things that people notice when they listen to you guys, that you were just having a ton of fun. And a lot of people were stuck in traffic going to jobs that they hated, and they just wanted to hear somebody having a little fun and to make them laugh a little bit.
Well, that was the thing, man. They just turned us loose. And, thank you, Janet Jackson, for screwing all that up.
Yeah.
Because, when that whole deal went down, the FCC just tightened their butthole, and that's when Clear Channel freaked out and just shut us down. I mean, seriously. We were... it's pretty bad. When I was in college radio in the 70s, and we could play Pink Floyd Money with the no goody good bullshit line.
Yeah.
And they don't even play it now. I'm talking 1976. We played that. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know about the atmosphere out there right now.
Absolutely. Is that really what you think was maybe the beginning of the end of the Dawn Patrol, was the Janet Jackson thing, and then the...
Well, yeah, honestly, they set us down like the next day, and it was like, don't do anything remotely provocative, It was like,
wow.
They quit playing anything as far as, the music. We were playing Puddle of Mud, She Hates Me. The unedited version of it, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I went to my boss and said, dude, really? They're like, well, we were allowed to do it because it's in the context of music. Okay.
Wow. Well, how'd you...
it's guys like you, we're going to have to rely on, and it is going to kill terrestrial radio, what you guys are doing.
Hold on, here we go. Let me see if I can click this. Hey, is that you, Bob?
Yeah, I called before and it rang, and then nobody ever picked up.
That apparently was my bad. I just figured out how to do this.
Okay.
Now I'm a true broadcasting
for God's
professional.
Sake.
Eddie was having fun on his own, but now we...
Can you hear me?
Oh, absolutely.
I can hear Ed Fingers, and I can hear Stoner Jesus.
That's all you need to hear. Two most important people.
God.
I'm shocked that Stoner Jesus has problems with the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you can teach that in divinity school.
Since we're talking pot.
Yeah.
Sure, let's talk pot.
For one thing, I've never used a vaporizer. How is that?
What is a vaporizer?
Yeah, one of those the vapes, 5 hour, those things.
They're pretty good. I have one. One of my sponsors actually makes vaporizers, and they're awesome.
I was trying to give your sponsor some love.
Absolutely, Vapor Brothers. They're incredible. You just got to click the banner on my website, stonerjesus.net. Sponsorship is a beautiful thing.
Stoner Jesus has, you have pot-affiliated sponsors, huh?
Yes. See, the internet's a whole different thing.
Quick Bob story. Bob, not a huge pot guy, and and I go way back with the Herb. And we went to see Bob Dylan, and Jesus, you'll know, he was Riverbend. It's it's an amphitheater.
Absolutely.
Everybody is, if you don't know that facility, you certainly know of something like it. And Dylan was in town. So I tell Bob, let's go see Dylan. And, yeah, cool. And he hadn't been working at the station long. And I got him hired a cat.
Yeah.
And,
it's pretty high.
Believe me. And we're walking in there, and he's walking around like freaking Rain Man, just kind of bumping into stuff, and like, I was like, just follow me to the seats, we're all good. And we run into a guy who used to work with him at another radio station, and Bob just looked at him like he was from frickin' Alpha Centauri or something. And the guy, am I wrong, Bob?
No, not at all. One thing that Eddie, he can testify that I enjoyed it, but I didn't do pot very much. So whenever I did, it's the only time in my life I was ever quiet. I didn't speak hardly at all when I got stoned. So we were there, and he was talking to me, and I don't think I said like 2 words to him, right? So he was there trying to talk to me for like 5 minutes, right?
And I looked as we were walking away, and I said, and again, Jesus, what the EBN, we kind of had, there was an attitude about the EBN employees that people thought we had. And I looked at Bob, and I said, that guy thinks you've become an EBN asshole. He goes, what? It's like, buddy, you said 2 words to him. He's like, really? I thought we had a fine conversation.
Yes, I said, 2 words at the most. And now I saw him after that, and I don't know if I ever explained it, I think he maybe just thought I had an off day. That's the only time in my whole life that I'm ever, like, really quiet. So I think Eddie would like to encourage me to get stoned so I could have some peace and quiet,
So smoking a lot of weed could have been really detrimental to your radio career.
Well, again, if I was stoned on the air, there would have been a lot of dead air, which would have been preferable sometimes.
Well, and that's me too. As much as again, back in the day, man, I used to, wake and bake was status quo.
Yeah.
But anytime I tried to be high on the radio, I would just freeze up. I could not do it. It was weird. I could spend 22 hours out of the day high and then go on the radio and just lose my mind.
Yeah, I'm completely the opposite. The only time I talk is when I'm high, so it was basically 2 hours a night.
Are you stoned right now? Most of the time when you're on the air, Stoner Jesus, are you? Do you have a nice buzz there right now?
Always. Since 2009, I haven't done a show when I haven't been high.
Since 2009?
I have to represent for the people listening. I got to be authentic. My street cred is on the line.
Now, I've read.
I tried to do a show one time when I was doing mushrooms. That did not work out well at all. I could guarantee you that one.
I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good show.
Eddie used to tell me that I never tried acid, but he suggested it probably wouldn't be a good idea because I had a fairly active imagination. I had all kinds of issues, right? He said you should definitely not try acid because I think it would have been. What do you young call it? A bad trip? Is that it?
Yes.
So Stoner Jesus, can you explain that? Is that the reason there are so many fishes and loaves of bread and stuff? Was it a munchies thing?
A lot of bad trips back in the day, but we lay off the hard stuff. So, although adults can do what they want, but I stick to weed mainly, or rarely drink and things like that.
Well, the herb is a beautiful thing, and I'll tell a story myself, and Bob knows this story. My wife and I were in Amsterdam, and we were there more than once. It's freaking awesome if you get a chance to go. And I was talking to a buddy of mine back here in Cincinnati who was doing a talk show. And so we were kind of laughing about it on the air, and he said, well, you know what, I'm on the air for 3 hours, and I was reading him a menu of this hash bar. And I'm reading him this, I okay, try some whatever Northern Lights, Monkey Ganja, and some kind of, I forget whatever hash it was. So I smoke all three of them, and I got so high that I refused to call him back. and my wife is going, you have to call him back. He's waiting for you to go on the air. I was like, I'm so high, I can't talk on the radio right now. And she's like, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, go to this cafe over here, and I'm going to drink like 5 Heinekens so I can not be as high as I am. So I sit there and drink like 5 big glasses of Heineken to come down so I can actually speak to the man. Not a good place to be.
Then you were drunk, huh?
Well, you know what? At least I had nerve enough to call him back. Because, like I said, I can't. When I'm on the air, high, it doesn't work out well at all. Because that's the thing with Jesus that gets me. You don't live. My problem is always I listen to myself.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm stoned, I always I'll sit there and go like, what am I saying? You know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't like listening to myself on playback, but when I'm just doing the show, I don't know. I don't want to say something stupid and cliche like it feels like this is what I was born to do, be a internet radio podcast host, but I guess there could be worse things in life.
Where do you operate?
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, George Carlin, who I love, has gone on record and said he had never been on the Tonight Show when he wasn't stoned. I think he was always high when he performed. There's a lot of comics. I know Carlin. They were talking about it, and he was pretty open about it, and I don't think anybody's shocked by that, right?
Yeah, it definitely affects people differently. Like I said, I'm only talkative when I'm high. You guys are quiet. Obviously, George Carlin would stand there for hours and tell stories and jokes, and it just depends.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, no, that's the thing. I'm not quiet when I get high. Like I said, when I wear my headphones, I start listening to myself. I'm like, I'm talking like this now. It's stupid, but that's what happens to me. But everybody reacts differently. It's exactly what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. Getting back to the Dawn Patrol, do you think it was back in the day when the Dawn Patrol, for those who don't know, was a pretty popular morning show? You guys were usually up at the top of the ratings, or at least close. Somewhere, incidentally, EBM can seem to get to.
There was one point in the early 90s, again, we're talking 20 years ago, but there was one point, and Bob can verify, that in our target demographic, we had over a quarter of the listeners listening to us in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big deal.
And why do you think that it was so popular in like at least back then, it was a pretty conservative city?
Oh yeah, and that's what made us so big, is that we were totally pushing the envelope and stuff, and but it was right when all that stuff was starting to get big. It was right, it was right when Howard got big, and it was there were guys in L.A. that got big. There was Johnny Brandmeier in Chicago, and some guys in Philly and all around.
And
John Boy and Billy. Everybody was starting to get big at the same time, and it all just kind of, chased its tail. And, Howard broke the ice for everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody was encouraged to, hey, if Howard's doing it, you can do it. So, okay, that's what we did.
Yeah,
that's what pisses me off. No, I'm sorry?
I was just going to say, the great thing about EBN, they encouraged us. They gave us total carte blanche, total freedom to push the envelope. They wanted us to really push it.
Right.
Right. Well, that was the deal, and that pisses me off. And you hear people, you'll hear, oh, everybody, you guys are just rip-offs of Howard. Howard just broke the ice, and Howard was, trust me, nobody's a bigger fan of Howard Stern than me.
Right.
But Howard broke the ice and just turned us all loose. It was like, okay, he's doing that. You guys can do whatever it is that you want to do. And let's face it, a dick joke is a dick joke, and that's kind of where it went. Once we were allowed to open that floodgate, that's what everybody started doing. And it was like, oh, everybody's ripping off Howard. No, everybody was doing a variation of Howard, but Howard was definitely the pioneer.
Yeah.
He opened the door, and we didn't imitate him. But the cool thing about the Dawn Patrol, Eddie was really, really good at what he did as the host. and everybody did something different. Everybody else brought something different to the table, and there was a great chemistry with that group of people that I don't think you could duplicate it. I don't think we could. We even said with the same group of people, we probably couldn't do it today because times have changed a lot in radio. We wouldn't have that kind of freedom or carte blanche. But everybody there, brought something else to the table, and there was just a great chemistry, just a great click. Especially when we had some comics on, or if we had, like Natasha, the sex goddess, or anything. It was really, it was a great environment. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Fingers?
It was dirtier than hell.
It was. It was. And they encouraged that big time. They did encourage it.
Yeah.
Well, I got, after Steve Dahl, he did it first, but when my first year there, I got an on-air vasectomy.
Well, speaking of medical problems, that's a good segue into, and I'm sure it's not either one of your all's favorite moment in Dawn Patrol history, but it's probably the most memorable moment. It didn't even happen on the air. Of course, I'm talking about when Bob took a header off the stage at the Aronoff Center.
I thought that was
definitely not my bit. Yeah. Now, the weird thing is, Eddie, I got to say, I'm going to give him props for this, because everybody was freaking out. I don't have any memory of this at all. I don't remember about a week.
Yeah.
But, because I had to, but they were trying to move me, and he handled it great. He said, don't move him. I was bleeding out of my ear and stuff. And even when he called my wife to say, I always told her as I fell, and I broke some ribs, which I did, but that was the least of it. So he didn't freak out getting there. So he was pretty cool under
pressure.
Yeah, he was really cool because everybody else was totally freaking out.
Yeah,
they were like,
it was one of those deals where it's not something you ever think you're going to have to face. When
in a radio remote, right?
Right, we're all on this. For people who don't know, it's an opening of this beautiful theater complex here in Cincinnati, and we were doing a show live there, and Bob walked off of the stage into 12, 15-foot orchestra pit and fell on his damn head.
Yeah, and all the way down.
My first reaction was I got pissed off because I thought Bob did it on purpose. Honestly, God, Jesus, I thought that he had. I thought he had jumped. I was like, the guy just told you it's 15 feet. And so honest to God, he's down there doing the death rattle. You can hear.
Wow.
I've heard that term before. I heard it with Bob. He was laying down in this dark hole.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what the? And so again, I'm trying to not go on the air and freak out. For one thing, for his wife, who was listening, and this little kid. How old were your kids then, Bob? Probably what?
Yeah, well, Michael was still in grade
like
school.
That?
Yeah, he was in grade school, 7th grade or something, and my daughter was in high school. And so you handled it great. But the people with us, they were totally freaked out. They were trying to move me, which they said, no, don't do that, because I had a head injury, and I could have, I had a neck problem. I was
move you to where?
Out of my ear. Pardon me?
Move you to where?
What did I wear?
No, where were they going to move you to? Like you're in this big theater. What were they going to do with you?
What was I wearing? They see, that's one of the things that you can tell. I don't hear.
What was really totally awful about it is he was wearing bra and panties under his normal clothes.
That was the first time I was found out.
You can never do that. You never know when you're going to walk off the stage.
I think they were just trying to, to get me. I don't know where, but then when the paramedics came, they told Eddie, well, this doesn't look good. so yeah. But fortunately for all of us, that I was okay, eh?
Absolutely.
Fuck those life-saving people.
Yeah, I know. But the Dawn Patrol was it was a great experience. I feel lucky to have been part of it because it was just a time because I've been in radio since 1970, and I started at EBN at the very end of '88. Eddie and then our sports guy Wildman had been there a little over 3 years when I started, and it was great. It was a good time.
Well, let's go into a more positive note after
okay.
Bob trying to kill himself. We'll start with you, Bob. What was your favorite part of the Dawn Patrol? Does anything like stick out in your mind?
You mean like just like different events we like events or
Yeah, any event or a bit or whatever.
I like doing stuff on the phone, and there were a couple of things like that you know, with the one that probably is the best known because it was the first year I did there was like putting my mom in the nursing home, and the guy who was our production director, Joel, was in the background doing this kind of a Monty Python high falsetto voice in the background, saying things like, you know, I'm cold, I'm wet, and everything, and I'm like yelling at her. And the woman on the phone, the thing that's kind of weird when you listen back to it, it's like I got the impression she probably heard stuff like that a lot. She was like that. So yeah, messing around on the phone, and I did a remote at a nudist colony. It was kind of fun. I was real uncomfortable doing it. But I think the pregnant bikini contest was one of the things that the whole show did that was how long did that go on, Ed?
It went on the whole time we were there, basically. I think it started maybe a couple of three. Well, it started, I think, when you came, right?
Yeah, I was there for the first one.
But that was really cool, and again, other people had done that stuff, and you know, it just went from market to market, all the weird crap that was going on. But my favorite Bob story, if I may.
Absolutely.
Besides you almost dying.
that was your foremost out front. That was by far.
No, I mean, completely unscripted. You know, it's there's a place, and Cincinnati people will know what I'm talking about. And I assume that no matter where you're at, there must be something like this that happens for Catholic people, where you go on Good Friday and you do some kind of homage. Maybe you do, I don't know. You certainly, if you're a Catholic, you go to services or whatnot. But here in Cincinnati, there are these steps that go up a hill here. There's 7 hills of Cincinnati, and one of them is Mount Adams. And at the top of the hill, there's a church called the Immaculata. And there are, and Jesus, you certainly know this.
Yes.
That these steps wind up the hill.
Well,
I would think so. I don't know. And there's these steps that go up the hillside that goes to this beautiful church. Well, and people do a thing. They walk the steps, and they do. What do they do, Bob? They do Hail Mary.
They say like a prayer on each step, and they're real quiet. They take it real serious, and all. Right. There's a huge amount of people. There's just a glut of people that show up.
Literally hundreds of people are doing this on Friday morning, and we sent Bob out there in an Easter Bunny outfit.
Yeah.
And he's going up to people, and you know, these are old ladies and stuff, and they've got their rosaries out and the whole 9 yards. And we got Bob live on the air, and he comes up to an old lady on the steps and goes, "Excuse me, do you mind if I pray through?" and that makes me laugh to this day. And that was unscripted. He just said that to the old lady, and I fell out of my chair while we were over there. It was awesome.
But the cool thing about that was the first time I ever went out on the street, because it became like an ongoing thing where I would go out while we're on the air and do something interacting. That was the first time, and that church was right around the corner from where the radio station was in Mount Adams. All I had to do was just walk around, and there was all these people there. So it was the very first time I went on the street. So they thought I was like satanic. Now you can relate to that, Stoner Jesus, right?
I get told I'm going to hell all the time.
So Jesus, where did you grew up in Northern Kentucky? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I've been here all my life. I was born in Covington and still in the area.
Are you?
And I remember you guys from when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, there's been something that I don't know if this is a real thing. Maybe I just dreamt it or it was an actual thing. But it had to be late 80s and there was commercials for it on TV. It was, you guys had action figures. And there was Eddie and Bob and I think Robin Wood and Wildman. And then one there was like a traffic copter also.
Yeah.
See, I can never have something cool like that when I was a kid, but
yeah, we had
definitely
that
my
was
wish list.
the day, back in the day. I mean, that's what really totally sold this morning show is that we had probably 5 years of really great television commercials.
Yeah.
Yep.
They did the action figure thing. They did us as kids.
Oh yeah, that was a great one.
Me
That was
and
my
Robin
time
and
with.
well, no, I was going to say the first was where me and Robin in an insane asylum, which people went crazy over,
Oh yeah.
thinking we were making fun out of crazy people.
Because you were wearing straight jackets, huh?
Well, right. I mean, you're right. The crazy people, people were heard from, and it was like, really? Give me a break. And then we did like I said, us as little kids. We did, like you said, the action figures, and also we did the things with Pete Rose.
Yeah, that's towards the end. That's when they just pretty much after that they stopped doing the TV spots and promoting it. But yeah, there were 2 of them we did with Rose, Pete Rose, huh?
With Pete Rose basically talking about Tony Perez's penis, which got
I don't know if you remember that commercial, but we were like at a urinal, right? And Eddie was on one side of him and I was on the other, right? And then he kind of glances down and he goes, whoa, he goes, look at the size of that thing. And then he goes, that's a hoss. And then Eddie says to Pete Rose, do you mind if I see it? And then Pete goes, well, and then he holds his hand up and he's talking about his ring, not his Super Bowl, his World Series ring, yeah. But he was cool.
Yeah, it seems like I guess I would assume that Pete Rose would be a pretty nice guy. And people who don't live in the Cincinnati area, they've of course heard of Pete Rose, but in Cincinnati, especially back then, he was probably the biggest celebrity in town, I would think.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, we spent the whole afternoon with him, and he had some great stories. And that's when Mojo Nixon was on the show.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean Mojo Nixon might be a little past a few people's prime, but Mojo meeting Pete Rose was kind of like Tarzan meeting the Great Gatsby. It was a very weird kind of collision of mindsets.
Yeah, definitely.
Correct.
I know, and well, it's because he was paid to be there with us. So he couldn't have been nicer. It was extremely funny. Now I don't know if you'd get that reaction if somebody just came up to him on the street and said, "Hey, Pete, will you sign?" I don't know if he would, how accessible he would be, but he was for us.
Well, but Pete, yeah, and also Mojo, because I'm sitting here now. I'm sorry if I'm distracted because I'm sitting here at Stoner and I'm watching your, I'm watching like the feed on your website here, and people are talking about Mojo and Skid. And that's where we remember Elvis is everywhere, and Debbie Gibson's pregnant with my two-headed love child, and he had some great songs, the Beat Farmers back in the day.
Yeah,
and we got some Mojo. Mojo, as much as people thought he was high all the time, he didn't smoke pot. Mojo was naturally, and I think we've all, anybody listening right now, has met that guy who's kind of naturally high.
Yeah.
And Mojo was in, I think he was trust me, he did almost any other kind of drug that somebody would put down in front of him, but I really like, let's get high. No, I don't like to get high. I just saw you do 2 grams of coke. Don't worry about it.
But he definitely came across as like he was high, huh? Yeah. But
hey, some people are
for
gifted.
A couple years with us, right?
Yeah, he was there 3 years, probably.
3 years or something like that. Yeah.
Well, for those who are in the Cincinnati area, you guys are still on the radio, are you not? Eddie, we'll start with you. Are you still at WLW?
Yeah, I'm at WLW. It's an AM talk station, which is not nearly as fun as it was back in the day.
Yeah,
but it was having a good time. It's it's the next it's the next step. It's an evolution. I mean,
you sit there.
I'll say this on his behalf, but I'm sure it's not as much fun as we had. But he's got killer numbers. He's got great ratings. Yeah.
Well, it's going good. I will say that, but it's one of those things where it's a whole different sensibility. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, with the Janet Jackson thing, totally destroying what we did. When anybody, that's the reason Howard's on satellite. I mean, you know, go back to Howard for a second. I mean, he couldn't do what he does now. I mean, like the Steve Dahls of the world and all that. As far as I know, and I'm pretty sure Steve is doing. I think he's podcasting. I'm not sure. I think he's selling subscriptions. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
I think one of our listeners is a fan of his, and I think he does like membership on his site or something.
That's what I thought. I thought he had a site membership thing going on. Because it's frustrating. You can't do what you want to do, and you know what? You don't have to do totally dirty. But to worry constantly about what you're saying gets a little old, man.
Yeah.
And it's self-defeating because our objective is to go on the air and be entertaining, and you can't pull out your whole arsenal.
Yeah, other times,
there's
Eddie.
Nothing wrong with self-editing. I get it. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Other times, Eddie, that when you're...
It's so much fun and just say what we wanted to say and do what we wanted to do. And you know what? People responded. It was very entertaining, and as I said, the ratings showed it.
Right. Other times you sit there now at your show, Eddie, and you think to yourself, man, this could just be so much better?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
How about you, Bob?
You know, when you gotta think about pulling back, you know, that's when you're self-editing as you're sitting there talking. It just destroys the flow and it destroys the creative process. And I hate to sound like freaking Ernest Hemingway here, but you know what I'm saying? If you're constantly thinking about what you're talking about as you're talking about it, you're not talking about what you want to talk about.
Right.
And the contrast, because the freedom that we had, I mean, like I said, not only do they give us carte blanche to do our thing, but they encourage us to really push it. So the contrast from how it was then, especially on the Dawn Patrol, it is night and day. It is. Well, radio has changed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Bob? You're. I just saw recently that you're on Class X Radio. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm doing just some like call-in, was just a typical thing that I've done with this, things I've written, and then I'm going to be teaching this class at Ohio Center for Broadcasting in writing, and I'm doing some stuff on their,
cool.
underground. They're taking some of the bits I've done and they're putting them on in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland.
Cool. Yeah, I've actually talked with a guy from Class X Radio before about being a DJ or whatever. That was earlier this year. I see Wildman's landed there as well.
Yeah, he has. He's the only one there who's on like every day. He's on like 5 days a week. He's doing.
You guys need to reteam.
Pardon me?
You need to reteam with Wildman.
I thought you said that, but I was like, that can't be right. So it's weird. I'll say this, but Eddie and we're like joke. But actually, Wildman, and he's exactly how, there's nothing more to him than what he is on the air. There's like what he says on the air, and he's obsessed by sports and the Reds and Pete Rose and everything, and that's him. There's no other side to him. But he brought a variable to the show too. Like when he did that, when he was on the billboard for what was it, 60-some days. He still mentions that every time I see him or talk to him. but that was a huge promotion. That was a big. He wasn't.
Well, that was one of those things where it was, Wildman, go live on the billboard for what? How long can the Bengals lose? They lost 9 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Well, he didn't think, he wasn't too excited to go up there, and he thought it would just be a couple weeks. But he went up there, and he was complaining about bees and sweat bees and how hot it was, and then it got real cold. He was up there a long time. And they would have to...
He made a big deal saying that I came up there and took a poop in his portalette. He talked about that for 5 years. And I went to walk into the bathroom and peed, and I walked out and goes, "What are you doing? That finger's up here pooping in my toilet." And I'm like, dude, I think I was in there for 30 seconds.
He had a porta thing, and we went to visit him. We kind of felt sorry for him because he was up there so long. And then that's when he was giving you shit for that. For I can say that on the radio. Right. I heard you say it earlier.
Right. He's giving us shit. And the thing was while we're up there, he was calling Morton Steakhouse. Morton Steakhouse, people who don't live in Cincinnati, if you know him, he's ordering. They would bring him, like, well, what do you want, Mr. Wildman? I don't know, shrimp and a baked potato and nice Caesar salad. Okay, we'll be there in 15 minutes or whatever. It was a half hour. And they're climbing up a ladder, bringing him a freaking $50 steak, and this guy's bitching about it.
Yeah, he was. You know, they had to coax him too because he's very shy. He doesn't like to ask for things.
Yeah. Yeah, we're uncensored, by the way. This is all internet, and this show, for people who listen to it, this show would never have flown on regular radio at any time, in any place. Some of the stuff we do on here, but you can say "fuck, shit, bitch," whatever the creative juices make you want to say.
That's funny, Jesus, because we were just talking about Mojo, and he's on Sirius. I mean, you know, we're talking about Howard, and he's on Sirius as well. And he has 3 shows. Outlaw Country, he's a regular DJ on there, which is very cool. He does a NASCAR show, and he does a one time a week. It is a political talk show called Flying Cocksuckers. And I am not kidding. Bob, you know that's true.
That is true. And you were on his show before.
And I was on it. I was on one of the first ones. He lives in San Diego, and I happened to be in San Diego visiting him, and we're in his back. Well, he has a garage behind his house, and we were sitting there gin drunk, just talking trash, and that's one of the first things that I said was, fuck! On the radio. Silly and asinine and very childish of me, but that's what I did.
But yeah, that's the temptation. You got to do that. Now, while we were on the Dawn Patrol on regular radio, that word went on the air a few times. I don't know if any of us ever said it, but it did go on. Especially when we had
that's the thing too. I mean, you know, all this crap with the FCC. You know, even like at a football game, if somebody in the stands yells "fuck" or whatever, they make a big deal out of it, and they're going to try to sue the network and all this crap.
Right.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And that's what, back in the day, nobody made a big deal out of it. Every once in a while, a caller would slip through and drop an F-bomb or some such, and they'd make a big deal out of it. You know, we got 0 complaints. Not one person, somebody would go on the air and accidentally say fuck or shit, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't get 1 complaint call. Now, because of the Janet Jackson thing, if something like that slips through, there's 50 people calling because they know they can make a difference now.
And you know, with EBN, not the whole station, but definitely the Dawn Patrol, because of Janet Jackson, when they got the most complaints is when they started editing fuck out of the song. And then people were calling up saying, "You guys sold out. I can't believe that you take that out. You know, you're editing fuck out of the song now." Because that's when we got the complaints. That's when we got a lot of complaints. When they had to, when they had to start editing the music. You guys sold out.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember a lot of changes that EBN's gone through. I listened for, I guess 30 years. I don't listen anymore because regular listeners of the show know we had a little run-in with some DJs at WEBN, and it was a whole big thing. There was a lot of content for the show, but.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had long story short, I had a bunch of listeners tweeting them saying we want to hear Stoner Jesus as a DJ on there, which I know would never happen. It wouldn't have happened 25 years ago, but it was something fun and promotional. I thought it was something cool to promote EBN, but apparently one of the DJs there started blocking my fans on Twitter, and then I have a recording of one guy calling in, and I guess it was Shroom. I guess he's the one who answers the phones. But he was he told one of my listeners that I had died in a motorcycle accident, and then he starts playing like sound effects from The Price is Right and all kinds of stuff, and it was really bizarre.
Wow!
But I've interviewed Kid Chris before on this show after he took over the morning show there, and he was a cool guy. But things between us and WEBN pretty much went downhill after that. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, That seems to be the trend now.
Yeah, WBN
Well,
is.
it's tough. You know what? Rock and roll radio's tough right now.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell on the radio.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah, people, especially in this area, seem to like WLW, like what you guys do, and then some country, and then maybe like Warm 98 when they're playing Christmas music, and then everything else is kind of not falling by the wayside, but definitely not as powerful as it was.
That's funny what you're talking about. Well, you know, and again, we're not from Cincinnati, and it happens in every market. Just what you just mentioned, Warm 98, this radio station that probably right now has about a, I don't know, 4 share for the next, because like the day after Halloween, man, it's, you know, the most wonderful time of the year. Yeah. And they'll go from a 4 share to like a 15 share, and then they'll go back to a 4 share in like 3 weeks. It's bizarre.
Yeah. They start real early, and they play nothing but Christmas music, right?
Yep.
Well, that's the best possible thing they can do, because they blow. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm sorry. I take that back. 198.
Oh, it's fine. They're not
You
listening.
can use stronger words. You can use all 7 of George Carlin's words.
That's right. I would be surprised if anybody at Warm 98 listened to the Stoner Jesus show, but you never know.
Yeah. I think all the people that work there are big time stoners, but they play it down on the air.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you know, because they're playing that mellow music. So but when I'm high, I don't necessarily like to listen to the Carpenters, but apparently maybe somebody does.
It didn't look like Karen. They didn't have the munchies much there.
No, she could have used some munchies.
I mean, you and I got to go on a bong tear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's another Bob High story. Briefly, he was at my house, and we were doing a few bong hits. And I used to live in Oakley, and again, if you're not from Cincinnati, you don't know what that means, but it's kind of like it's a residential area close to downtown. And I said, let's go get some chicken wings. It was at lunchtime. And there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken place right down the street from me. And do you remember this?
Yeah,
and I go, how's some chicken wings, son? You think it's awesome? Perfect. He said, it's right down the street. I was like, we'll go down to KFC and get some wings. And I pull in there. I pull through the drive-through window. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Give me 15 chicken wings or whatever it was. And he starts laughing maniacally. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? Because I thought you were going to the Knights of Columbus.
Because he said KFC. He said you want to get a KFC. And in my altered state, for some reason, KFC only meant Knights of Columbus.
You're like, what are we? Let's go to the Jets Hall while we're out, have a beer and some chicken wings.
I've forgotten about that one, but yeah, it has an impact on me. The marijuana. So you said you were always, when you're on the air, Stoner Jesus, you were always stoned. Huh? So you've never been on when you were not stoned?
I have back. I guess it was maybe 5 years ago. I used to do a show on Blog Talk Radio, which is a little like phone-based system. You call in, you have callers and things like that, but. Not since then. It just makes for a much better experience. As I always say, if you're not high, I don't know how you can listen to this show, much less host it. So I encourage everybody to smoke up, and it just gets funnier the more you smoke.
Well, when I was in college, I could smoke a bit during when I was like working overnight shifts when I first started out, you know.
Yeah.
Put on whatever, half an album side, and just talk on the phone to some hot chick who was probably about a 400-pound woman from, you know, Tip City.
That's one thing you learn early on. I'm sure you have already too. Because some people sound really hot. Some of the chicks, you think, oh my God, and the stuff they say to you, and they're saying, hey, come on over and I'll blow you. Like, really? And then if you ever take them up on it, it's they usually don't fit with your mental image.
Yep.
So, Bob, I just saw a little while ago on the blog, somebody posted your thing that we shot here at my house on
the thing about
Bob
this
TV.
This is your life thing?
Well, we were sitting there just talking, and it's me and you and a guy named, and Jesus, you'll remember Jimmy the Weasel used to be on our show.
Absolutely.
G. Bob and Weasel.
And then Mojo did a call in.
Yeah, I've seen the video you're talking about.
Mojo on that.
Little cameo.
And it's actually, that's pretty funny. We're sitting here, I don't remember if we were high or not, but we were certainly drinking.
Yeah.
It got kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that video. That's what I was talking about before you guys got on. People want to go look on YouTube. I forget what the title of it is, but just put in, Eddie Fingers, Bob the Producer. It'll come up.
Yeah, isn't it just Bob TV?
Yeah, it's Bob TV, and if it doesn't show up there, if you put Bob the Producer TV, it should. But that was that got pretty many hits for my stuff, and it was us like reminiscing about what we're just talking about the Dawn Patrol heydays, and a lot of it was just what you mentioned too, was about when I almost met you. I almost met you, Jesus, when I fell in the orchestra pit.
It wasn't your time yet, Bob. You still have more to do, more to give.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie and Bob, I want to thank you. I could do this all night, but I have time constraints. Well, somewhat time constraints. Actually, I could go all night if I want to, but it's been an honor. Honor isn't even a word for it. As I said, you guys were the two biggest influences on this show, for better or worse. I guess if you like my show, then that's a good thing. If you hate me, then well, these are the two men responsible for.
Dude, hey, look, it's a real pleasure, and you and I have been going back and forth on Facebook forever, and you know what? I'd love to do it again sometime if you want to kill
Awesome.
another hour and talk to me and that goofball or whoever. I'll get Jimmy the Weasel on, and we'll just have at it.
Absolutely, anytime you guys are welcome. And if you have any pot related stuff you ever want to promote, I know a lot of people who like to partake of the herb and on the internet and buy things related to that as well.
Cool. And
like I said, I want to try the vaporizer. I've never tried it. So.
Yeah.
If you could send me some sample product, I would be really appreciative of that.
We'll see what I can do.
The wrong idea that I don't like pot. It just makes me quiet.
Not a lot of people.
And I like it for that very reason.
Eddie loves it. Eddie loves me partaking.
Yeah, right. And I love to watch you eat when you've done it too.
Well, it's a pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure, man.
You guys are awesome, and thanks so much for calling in and taking the time to talk with me and my listeners.
Well, I love you, Jesus.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Eddie and Bob.
Bye.
Have a good night. That was awesome. That end the calls? I don't know. You think I'd be better with the phone system? That was Eddie Fingers and Bob the Producer from the old Dawn Patrol on the WEBN in Cincinnati. As I said, the biggest influence on this show, even more so than Howard Stern,